John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast. John Anik and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, John Anik and Kenny Florian.
That's some bang.
Oh, to what extent did you miss us? Be honest with yourselves. Be honest with us. It's great to be back in your collective lives. Sunday, October 1st, 2023. It is episode 439 of the Anik Florian podcast presented by DraftKings. We are on the DraftKings network, on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Clips, of course, still can be accessed on Instagram and on the Anik Florian podcast YouTube channel. More importantly, we only have 2 bye weeks a year. We just had one of them. Good to see your shining face. You look refreshed. You look like you have some color. How we doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you? It's good to be back. It's always weird when we have a week off. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Our producer, Cody Merrow, was asking me if I enjoyed it, and I don't know if enjoy is the right verb. It felt like something was missing, and I am a creature of habit, as many of us are, and I like my routine. And so even though I had the NFL podcast, Anik Squared, which we're very thankful is also here on the DraftKings YouTube channel, just felt vacant and absent and empty without the Anik Florian podcast. And oftentimes when we take a week off, and this one, which had been scheduled for months, was in line with the UFC's dark week. Of course, no sooner do we have a dark week than all of a sudden all these fight announcements come down the pike. So I want to get into some of that stuff. So the PFL had a broadcast in Europe over the weekend. No Ken Flo, though. We get fucking Sean O'Connell. We get Dan Hardy. No Ken Flo, huh?
I apparently am not European enough. I need to be more European, and then maybe I could do it. Yeah, I had it off. Sean and Dan were on the call, though. Saw a nice knockout there from Cedric, and
I love how when everybody gets excited about a guy like Cedric, Ken Flo is the slow your roll police who just comes in. And at least in our group chat, though, I know you're excited about this guy as the PFL is, but you're not necessarily ready to crown him a world champion just yet.
Yeah, I always like to take a slower approach, especially guys who come from striking backgrounds. Like, hey, let's see where their grappling's at. Let's see where, their striking for MMA is at. Let's put it all together first, have that slow progression. That's always the best way to go, I think. And you don't want to find out during an early fight that you didn't have the grappling skills to get to that next level. So I'm sure he's working on that stuff. But yes, take it slow.
Right. Blood Diamond would probably advise as such as well. So Sean O'Connell's not necessarily European. Is he an Irish guy?
That's a good point. That's a good point.
He's pretty white.
He's the only lead commentator. He's the only lead commentator we have. He's the only play-by-play guy we got. No.
Canelo Alvarez had a big win about 12 hours ago. Did you ingest any of that? Maybe some of the highlights?
I did not. I saw some exactly. I saw some of the highlights, saw some of the recaps. I kind of saw it going that way. Canelo is an absolute beast. I think that what was interesting is just kind of the difference in the corner. I saw some of the advice in the corner, and Charlo's coach really wasn't giving him so much advice. It was more like anyone in the crowd probably could have given him that advice. And with Canelo, they're so technical. They've amassed so much experience. You could just see the different levels of the coaching and mentorship out there. And Canelo was just being Canelo out there, man. Unbelievable.
A lot of sharp handicappers fancied Charlo a live underdog. There were several sources out there offering plays on him, and there are a lot of people that are critical of him in defeat. I think Bud Crawford chief among them, and Bud has sort of insinuated that fight is no longer of interest to him. And we do oftentimes, whether it's boxing or MMA, find ourselves in this conversation about a fighter who gets this big opportunity and then doesn't manage risk the right way or take enough risks in the big fight to actually make it worthwhile. And I think if there's any criticism on the Charlo side, it's that he wanted this Canelo Alvarez fight for years. It finally materialized and gets essentially whitewashed and didn't really go for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate, man. He didn't let his hands go when he needed to. I think there was not enough volume to really be much of a threat. I think he was there to not take so much damage. Some people going as far as saying, hey, he was there just to collect a check. I don't know about that, But in that moment, in that big fight, I don't think we saw his full offensive capabilities. And perhaps that had a lot to do with Canelo, too, because Canelo is so damn dangerous that if you open up, you're going to get hit with one of those big shots. So, yeah, but either way, I agree, man. He just didn't offensively provide enough of a threat against Canelo, who just seemed to be very comfortable in cruise.
I'm going off on a little bit of an aside here, but a buddy and I were having a conversation about fighters that we thought would realize success in bare knuckle. And we came across the name Anik Florian. So you didn't break your hands a ton in training nor competition, did you?
I did not. No, I never broke my hands. The way I used to throw my hook, I used to like hook more like this. And I used to mess up my thumb for like the first like 4 fights of my career in the UFC. But maybe it's just because I didn't hit hard enough that I didn't break my hand. I don't know.
You got pretty big hands. You got pretty big knuckles. I don't know. I was just thinking that your hands might hold up. And I guess we were talking about it because Randy Costa out of Taunton, Massachusetts is fighting against Mississippi Mean Jason Knight in a bare knuckle setting.
Wow.
I think it might be Game Bread's show. Maybe it's bare knuckle mixed martial arts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And, Randy Costa doesn't have these big fucking meat hooks like Ken. Not that you got meat hooks, but you got some pretty genetically, I think, big hands.
Yeah,
so
kind of thick, yeah.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
All right. So a few things I would like to get into, fight announcements, and then I do want to get some thoughts on some of the outstanding performances. Bryce Mitchell, obviously Marina Rodriguez, Mateusz Gamrot getting a win over an injured Rafael Fiziev. But finally, we have a fight. Leon Edwards, Colby Covington for the UFC Welterweight Championship. It is going to be December 16th. Now, Leon Edwards successfully defended the belt the first time against Kamaru Usman back in March in London. Seemingly, he has controlled a lot of the calendar. But title defense number 2, it in fact will be Colby Covington with a Las Vegas backdrop in December. Early thoughts on that fight announcement and ultimately how you handicap the matchup?
Yeah, the UFC ended up putting it together. It seemed like Edwards was trying to sneak out of that one, but Covington, has a fight. And I think that, while he did obviously a phenomenal job against Usman, Covington doesn't, as far as we know, have one of those injuries like Usman does in his knee that could potentially compromise him in that one. Covington, he's going to push the action. He's going to get in your face, and he's not going to go away. That is the big problem with Covington, is he is as game as they get, and he tries to inject that emotional factor into that fight to allow it to kind of compound by the kind of trash that he talks leading up to a fight. So for Edwards, he has to make sure that he keeps it a very technical fight, that he doesn't kind of go into that brawling type style, and that his wrestling holds up against someone like Covington, who can be an absolute menace with his pacing, with his pressure, and with his ground and pound. So I think it's a very interesting fight, and it's another one, I think, for me anyway, to see how good is this Leon Edwards?
Right.
How good is he really as a mixed martial artist? I think he is that good, but when you have a guy like Covington who forces you to fight, we are going to find out, and I think it's a very interesting matchup because of it.
Beautifully done. You made the transition for me. A huge opportunity for a legacy advancing win for Leon Edwards, who right now isn't necessarily classified as one of the greatest welterweights of all time, despite the fact that he hasn't lost in like a decade, and he beat Kamaru Usman twice. George St. Pierre is revered as number 1. Matt Hughes will always be revered, the Hall of Famer, Kamaru Usman. But if Leon Edwards can stack a win over Colby Covington on the back end of 2 wins over Kamaru Usman, I really think it's a huge, huge opportunity legacy-wise for Leon Edwards. Live odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, Ken Flo. Any idea who's favored in that fight December 16th at UFC, 296? Leon Edwards, Colby Covington?
Edwards, 2-1, maybe a little less than 2-1 favorite.
A little less than that. Yeah, you're pretty much all over it. Leon Edwards minus 135. Colby Covington is plus 114. So maybe closer than you thought.
Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting. I can see that. I can see why.
Bilal Muhammad factors in this equation as well. Friend of the program, obviously, dear friend of my twin brother, has a shoulder program on the Anik Florian Podcast YouTube channel. I think this is bittersweet for him. He's happy that the division is moving forward, but Dana White said after Dana White's Contender Series last week that he has a fight for Bilal Muhammad. And that's news to Bilal. I mean, Kamaru Usman, I think, is the fight they would like to put together. Those guys have the same manager. I think both sides of those are lukewarm at best in terms of that fight. And it's tough, right? the fight business is very, very difficult. And Bilal sort of intimated on social media, like, they keep moving the goalposts on him. And, he was guaranteed a title fight if he stepped up on short notice to fight Gilbert Burns back in May. Did that, won the fight going away. And, not guaranteed anything, I guess, at least at this point in time.
No, I mean, listen, with MMA and everything that can happen between injuries and events and cancellations and whatever the heck else happens in mixed martial arts, there is no such thing as a guarantee, which is why when you get an opportunity, you have to think about it very, very carefully. Do I want this? Do I want this at this time? It may never come ever again. And also why when you get these things that are promised to you, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Now, I think for Bilal, the question becomes, do I want to be inactive or this long, be inactive for this long heading into a title fight, or do I want to have a fight? And what kind of a fight do I want to have? Do I want to have it against this guy in Usman who could be an extremely difficult matchup for him that, already lost to Leon twice? Or is he trying to pick someone else, maybe with a similar style of a Leon Edwards to help him prepare for that fight? I don't have the answer to that, but it's a lot for Bilal to kind of think about because it could help you or hurt you depending on how you approach that.
I told him after the Gilbert Burns fight in May that he had to be prepared to sit for 18 months. Now, I didn't think it would necessarily be that long, and I don't still think it would necessarily be that long, but there's no guarantee now that he would fight the winner of Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. And if Colby Covington wins that fight, perhaps they turn around and give Leon Edwards a rematch. I know philosophically the fan base is getting tired of all of these rematches, but depending on the nature of that Covington-Edwards fight, you may not get closure on that particular series. And you're right, nothing is guaranteed in the fight game. We can tell you, and remember the show listeners know this, Bilal Muhammad has pulled himself out of a scheduled grappling match in Abu Dhabi in October to make sure that he is ready in December, but it's not as though he has been made the backup, right? There are a lot of different welterweights now competing at UFC 296. Vicente Luque is fighting Ian Gary. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is fighting Shavkat Rakhmonov. So I just think if you're Bilal, you got to bide your time, not unlike Alexandre Pantoja did, and I do think eventually the title fight will come. I haven't spoken to Bilal about this, but certainly if I was advising him, I would tell him to just wait. And even if he has to sit right now for another 7 months, that would be a year come May 2024. So I think if you're Bilal, as frustrating as it is, he's a guy who's in the gym, staying ready 24/7, 365. I don't know. I would idle and wait, even though that might put him in a bad light promotionally.
Yeah, I think that's probably good advice. I don't see Bilal as that guy who, because he didn't compete for a long time, experience any of that, cage rust that we've talked about many times before. I don't see him as being that guy. And I think he's also a guy who can make a lot of improvements and add a lot of different things to his game over the course of that year or so, however long that's going to be before he fights next. So, yeah, what you don't want to do is take a fight and screw up everything that you've worked for, because Bilal has certainly worked extremely hard and won the right fights to put him in this position. And to go in there and potentially lose, you kind of lose everything with it.
All right, also playing at UFC 296, December 16th, the aforementioned Alexandre Pantoja, first title defense for him. He's a minus 245 favorite on DraftKings Sportsbook against Brandon Royval, plus 200. Really like that Raw Dog Royval is getting that opportunity. He has absolutely earned the title fight, and certainly Brandon Moreno had a case for an immediate rematch, but I like that they're going to let that Pantoja-Moreno rivalry breathe a little bit and give Royval his opportunity. The fight, though, everyone's talking about, though, Ken Flo, for December 16th, Paddy Pimblett and Tony Ferguson in the lightweight division. Paddy Pimblett minus 380. Ferguson comes back at plus 300. Your thoughts on this particular piece of matchmaking and ultimately how Tony will fare on the heels of a 6-fight skid?
Yeah, listen, I think first and foremost, I think it's a good sign that Pimblett seemingly is healthy enough to take on a fight at this stage of the game. So that's good. I know that there were some worries about that injury and the surgery and all that stuff involved. I think this is a good fight for Paddy. I think that Ferguson is a very different guy than what he was in his prime. I unfortunately have seen a decline in Tony Ferguson and how he's moving and reacting to some of the exchanges out there during a fight. I would love to be proven wrong and for Ferguson to go in there very sharp and looking like his old self. But I think for Pimblett, it's going to be interesting how he approaches the striking aspect of this game. And if this does go to the ground, how good is his grappling really against someone like a Tony Ferguson, who I think shouldn't lose too much in the grappling department as far as maybe some of the physical decline that we've seen on the feet with his striking. But we shall see. I think that's a good fight for Pimblett, and I think he continues to choose, him and his team continue to choose good fights to kind of build himself up as he eventually, looks towards, either a main event or a bigger fight on a main card or pay-per-view, and eventually moving towards that championship trajectory.
Yeah, my first thought mirrors yours. It's nice that Paddy Pimblett is healthy enough to take this particular fight. I can understand why some people maybe like the matchup for Tony Ferguson. It isn't this perennial lightweight killer, so to speak. But I do think that Paddy Pimblett, even if maybe he shouldn't be minus 380 against Tony Ferguson, I do think that he is underrated in terms of like the MMA masses, in terms of his total package, and just given what I thought was kind of a listless performance against Jared Gordon despite the win. So I expect Paddy Pimblett to be wicked motivated, and perhaps Tony Ferguson fighting for his UFC career. We shall see. All right. Before we get to UFC 296, it was learned in the time since we were last on the air that at UFC 295, Yuri Prochazka will be back against Alex Pereira for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship. So Jamal Hill is the champion right up until Madison Square Garden on November 12th, at which time he will vacate or be stripped, or however it goes. Probably he'll vacate, and then it'll be Prochazka and Pereira. Right now, Ken Flo, Alex Pereira is the slight betting favorite to win the light heavyweight title. Pereira minus 148, Prochazka plus 124.
Very, very interesting, man. That fight's going to be nuts. Okay, it's going to be nuts, and I guess I kind of see why Pereira is the favorite, right? First of all, you have this knockout artist who tends to thrive, right, when other people are aggressive and trying to take him out. I think that's the kind of fight that favors Pereira, right, as opposed to his last one against Blachowicz. And I think Prochazka is a big man, right? He's a huge man in that division. I think he's extremely dangerous. I think there's a lot of different ways that he could maybe surprise Pereira on the feet. I think he might have a speed advantage there. But I don't think Pereira is that small for that division either. And he certainly knows how to find that chin. He knows how to find the body. I think there's no way that this fight can be boring. Both guys are going to be very aggressive going forward. I don't see this one going the distance. Whoever wins, I just don't see it going the distance. I think it's going to be an absolute classic just based on the way that both of these guys match up. So excited about that one. That's a good choice there by the UFC.
All right, and the last thing before we get to some of the UFC highlights that we did not have a chance to discuss. Jon Jones is minus 395 on DraftKings Sportsbook right now against Stipe Miocic, who is plus 310. I understand Stipe is a man. He's 40, he's 41 at this point in time. But don't get it twisted. Like, both of these guys are training exceedingly hard. There are rumblings that Jon Jones is really in shape. Stipe has been going hard for a while and has seemingly added some muscle mass. But Ken Flo, I'm calling this fight, so perhaps this is too much opinion.
Yeah.
Stipe Miocic should not be plus 310 against any mixed martial arts heavyweight in the world right now. And I don't know if that betting line speaks to his inactivity, his age, Jon Jones's greatness, or what. But plus 310 next to Stipe Miocic? I mean, do you not see any value on that side? Like, what the fuck am I missing? It's not as though the Jon Jones-Cyril Gane fight gave us this wealth of footage, right? I'm not sitting here suggesting that Jon Jones's win was a fluke, but can we put some respect on Stipe Miocic's name? Where are the mixed martial arts bettors out there? Plus 310? What the fuck am I missing?
Yeah, no, I think it's right. Listen, Jon Jones should be the favorite, no question about it. Should it be that big of a favorite? I don't think so. You're not talking about Stipe Miocic with the same grappling or wrestling skills of a Cyril Gane. This is a guy who, wrestled D1. He knows how to take people down. He knows how to defend takedowns. He has so much time fighting in these big spots in the UFC. So never discount someone with that amount of experience. And, I think he's also extremely dangerous on the feet as well. So we haven't seen a lot from Stipe. I get that. And I think that's probably why we're seeing that big kind of number by Jon Jones's name. But one thing's for sure, Jon Jones better not underestimate Stipe Miocic.
Oh, you can be sure. The mental MMA giant that John Jones is, he's perseverating on Stipe every minute of his every hour. Hey, did you happen to see the video on social media of Alex Pereira pranking his good friend Glover Teixeira at the Japanese restaurant and having him eat like a white napkin he thought was some piece of sushi? Did you see that?
I did. I felt so bad. Glover, come on, man. Don't fall for that.
So those two.
Oh, God. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean, those two have an amazing kinship, but it seemed like this time around, Glover didn't really enjoy this particular prank. People talk about Ray Longo and Matt Serra needing a show. They have nothing on Alex Pereira and Glover Teixeira. All right. So the last UFC live event before that much needed dark week for the combat sports leader after 17 straight weekends with a live show. The main event was in this lightweight division, and it was Mateusz Gamrot over Rafael Fiziev. Kenny, the knee injury came at 2:03 of round 2. And in some part, a statement as to why betting on mixed martial arts can be problematic. I know for you had 5 units on Rafael Fiziev, and just sort of speaks to your year, I think, handicapping, just none of the bounces going your way. But what did you make of this main event, and ultimately, what do you now make of this result moving forward?
I hated it, John. I hated everything about it. This sport is just insane. Listen, I think that I was still waiting for that fight to kind of materialize. It was kind of a lot of like tag from the outside, and certainly Fiziev was respecting the grappling skills of Gamrot, was doing his best to try to stay on the outside. Gamrot would, shoot a shot here and there. And I thought Fiziev was looking good. The problem is I think that Fiziev was solving some of those grappling exchanges with his physicality as opposed to his fundamental wrestling defense skills, right? Like using his body in the proper manner. And I think he was trying to weasel his legs out of some of those situations. And Gamrot, with that vice-like grip and control, I think messed up his knee as he was trying to limp leg out of some of those holds. And I think because of that, he blew his knee out or did something to it anyway. And when he threw that kick at the very end, the planting leg just didn't seem like his foot was placed in the right spot, and it just failed. And there's so much that can go wrong in a mixed martial arts fight, and it all kind of went wrong for Fiziev, unfortunately. And that's what makes the sport so damn tough to gamble on and so hard to predict. So, unfortunately, it wasn't the fight that I had hoped for. Even for me, I thought we were going to get a lot more action. I thought they were going to exchange a little bit more. I think things were starting to heat up a little bit, and just as they were, I think that injury happened, and unfortunately for Fiziev, he had to bow out.
Rafael Fiziev historically is durable, but for me as an MMA handicapper, as an MMA fan, survival of the fittest, right? Like durability is a big part of the game. Every time I handicap a Sean O'Malley fight, I begin with the durability that plagued him in the Andre Sukumtat fight. It plagued him in the Cheeto Vera fight. It could have plagued him in the Aljamain Sterling fight. We're led to believe that if Aljo got a singular takedown, that Sean O'Malley's rib cartilage issue was such that fight would have been over right there. So I think the only thing, well, other than just a gauntlet of a bantamweight division of killers, the biggest thing holding Sean O'Malley back, I think, from myriad title defenses is just championship training camp upon championship training camp and the requisite health and durability needed to get through those camps and through those fights. Look at Yair Rodriguez against Brian Ortega and Dan Hooker, too. I did a Q&A with Dan Hooker in Sydney recently, right? And he was talking about that Jalen Turner head kick, right? And oftentimes they say it's the shots that you don't see that concuss you or really kill you. Yeah. But Hooker saw it coming, but his right arm was broken. So when his mind was telling his right arm to elevate, his right arm wouldn't go up because the thing was fractured, but he's so goddamn tough that he still won the fight. I just think durability is part of the game. And Mateusz Gamrot, I guess, is my overreaching, long-winded point. Shouldn't be penalized, still went in there, still prepared for Fiziev and beat Fiziev. But unfortunately, this doesn't necessarily do much for him moving forward because of the nature of the way this one ended. Bryce Mitchell, Kenflo, over Dan Ige. It seems like the jury is still out from some people as to just how elite Bryce Mitchell may be. And I thought this was a really nice win for him, having to deal with the adversity with the eye to fight a 5-tool perennial contender type in Dan Ige. And I know Bryce Mitchell took some issue with Brian Petrie's handicap on our show a few weeks ago. And I think some of Petrie's criticism was just that he wasn't sure that Bryce Mitchell was on that elite level. And anybody looking for him to pass a big test after the Ilia Topuria fight, he passed it, Ken Flo. And I think Bryce Mitchell might find himself in a title fight at some point in time. What were your thoughts on him winning by unanimous decision over Dan Ige in the co-main event?
I think this fight said a lot for me. I think it proved a lot. Coming off of that loss against Topuria, I was curious to see how he was going to come back against a true veteran and tough dude in Dan Ige. And he found a way to get it done, man. This guy mentally, physically is extremely tough. And he did what he had to do to get the win. And there were some tough spots for him. And the fact that he was able to survive through that, I think says a lot about his character and how much he still loves this game and how much he still loves the fight game. So I thought it was solid. Ige is not an easy guy to get through. And yeah, solid win for Bryce, man. Happy
and I think this one has to feel really good because even though Bryce Mitchell was the favorite and even though you saw Dan Ige go from plus 140 to plus 170, there were a lot of people who were steaming Dan Ige. And I think this is a really nice test for Bryce Mitchell, Thug Nasty, to have passed. And hopefully you enjoyed us sharing some of his hip hop a couple of weeks ago. All right. One other thing that I just wanted to mention on this UFC fight night. How about Timmy Means' business, right? This dude was fighting on Fuel TV back in 2012. He's got to be 40 at this point in time. Wins the fight of the night against Andre Fialho. He wins it by TKO in round 3. Congratulate Timmy fucking Means' business on the 50K, man. I just like fathers. I like Tim Means, the no-nonsense Timmy Means, still getting it done. Oh, Cody's telling me he's 39. February 20th, 1984. But, yeah, shout out to Tim Means. The Ken Flo generation a little bit, The Dirty Bird. The Dirty Bird, that's right. All right. Plenty more coming up on this very program. Brian Petrie in about half an hour will help take us through UFC Fight Night predictions for Dawson versus Green. We are also scheduled to be joined by the headlining athlete, Grant Dawson, coming up here shortly. Now, though, it is time for the star of the program. Let's get to the Ray Longo Minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo Minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo Minute.
Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
It's easy like Sunday morning with Ray Longo back in your life. Morning, pal.
All right. Lionel Anik. Very nice.
Lionel? I don't get it.
Well, isn't that Lionel Richie? Easy like Sunday morning?
Yep.
I didn't think that was the artist. Is it Lionel Richie?
I don't know.
I'm going to go. I don't think that's the artist. I'm going to go right now and look it up. That's why I'm easy. Oh, God.
Well, it could be the Commodore.
I'm easy like Sunday morning. Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
All right,
love it. Love the voice.
Hey, so what are the odds? Cody maybe can chase it. I don't have enough time.
Like the Commodores. But Lionel Richie was one of the Commodores.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, all right. So you're right. Spot on. I should never question you. Most of us, when we hear that song, we think about the NFL. You are not thinking about the NFL on this fine Sunday morning. What are the odds, though, that you and I would be wearing each other's merchandise? I don't know.
Wow. I love it.
Right?
Love it.
This is the big reveal.
Guys up.
But Ray, this is the big reveal. This is the big reveal. The shirt that I'm wearing right now, you can't even get yet. We are unveiling today on the Anik and Florian podcast our brand new design for the Ray Longo Minute. Anik and Florian podcast presents. You see it? You see it, Ray?
I gotta see it.
You see it?
Zoom in on it. I can't see. Zoom in on it.
It says Ray Longo Minute, and then at the bottom it says, "I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest." You see that? You see that, Ray?
Maybe let's get it. Oh, there you go.
With the blue eyes.
How is that? Look at that cartoon character. So this is big stuff today. We're breaking a lot of news, Kenny.
We will sell more of this design than probably anyone other than maybe the Kenny Florian Wolverine design, which is just electric. All right, Ray, it's great to see you. You look like you just rolled out of bed. I like the scruff.
Yes.
You drinking cold brew right now? Where's the cold brew? All right, I believe you. It's not in the shot. There it is. There it is. You put any sugar, any sweetener in that cold brew, or do you just chug it down black, Ray?
Black.
And did somebody go get that for you at Starbucks today, or is that a cup from a previous day?
No, my wife got that for me yesterday.
All right,
Late
yesterday. All right. So, but that's fresh cold brew in there, right? You're just
he has a Starbucks in his house, John. Okay.
Yes.
Starbucks.
All right. So we spoke last Thursday, and it was great to hear you. And it seems like your doctors believe that you're ahead of schedule when it comes to the hip recovery, but you don't necessarily buy that. So how are you doing? Let our listeners know.
No, I feel great. I just, I just can't do the things I want to do yet, but I feel really good. Really, really good. It's
helped the show in part because you're right there on the screws. Every time you're scheduled, we can really count on you. But so in terms of like what you're missing, right? How confident are you that Saturday, November 11th, you got 3 guys at Madison Square Garden that you're going to be able to make that walk, so to speak? We're only about 6 weeks out.
Very confident.
Look at how short-winded. Kenny, do you have anything for Ray today?
Kenny, help! Yeah, Kenny, help me because this is really going to be the minute this
Very
week
confident,
for sure.
he says.
We're like 45 seconds. We got nothing yet. We got 15 seconds.
We got to pry this crap out of him. Hey, well, I want to know, how do you get 3 guys on the same card? How does that get put together? Because first of all, there's a lot of things that go into it. How does that happen? Is Ray making phone calls? What's going on?
No. So when you have a champ that was as much liked as Aljamain Sterling, I mean, things happen for you.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense to you guys.
Oh, yeah. So you and I were talking last week about some of these guys, Dennis Bazookia, Nazim Sadikov, Matt Frivola, and certainly there are some athletes that maybe don't want to compete in New York because of the tax ramifications, but most athletes desire to make a walk at Madison Square Garden. I mean, it's the Mecca, right? And that's coming from a Bostonian that doesn't want to give that building its due credit. So, but I got to think these guys sell tickets too, right?
Yeah. Well, Bazooka, huge ticket. I'd say all 3 of those guys, pretty good tickets. Bazooka was always top of the food chain. He's good for 300 or 400 people, which that's a lot of people. Yeah. People could tell you, I'll get 1,000 people come see me. You get 6 people. You know what I mean?
Right,
so this is big. And as far as the Garden goes, growing up in New York with all the iconic fights that have been at the Garden, and it's always that everybody's dream to fight the Garden. That was the beauty of the Golden Gloves. The finals would be hosted at the Garden, and that was a huge thing growing up. Especially back in the day, like if you fought at the Garden, that was considered like you made it. So you get to carry those that part of your life with you for the rest of your life, which is fantastic.
So Matt Frivola could very well kick off the pay-per-view main card in his fight against Benoit Saint-Denis. Crazy fight. Now, certainly there has been a lot of love for Benoit Saint-Denis here on the Anik Florian podcast. Matt Frivola and his father, Sal, have been on the show multiple times, but we were trying to brand this new nickname for Benoit Saint-Denis, Seek and Destroy, putting over this athlete. And then, of course, he gets Matt Frivola in his first fight against ranked opposition. So here we go.
I think this is... It's got to be a barn burner. It just has to be. I mean, I can't, Kenny. I can't see this fight going any other way.
They're made for each other, those guys.
And I think they're made for each other. You know what I mean? And even like talking with Frivola, I don't think there's anything I could do that's going to change what he's going to do in this fight. I think it's what I heard when he sent me the name. I go, oh my God, this is a fight. I get it. This is a good fight. You know what I mean? So I do think Frivola matches up great with him. I really do. And I know we were just complimenting the shit out of him 2 weeks ago, but I don't know. He's got another guy just as crazy as he is. So I think it should make for a fun fight.
Wouldn't you say this is kind of good timing coming off of that Drew Dober fight, who's kind of cut from that same cloth and has a similar style where they're going to go for it? Do you think that helps him coming off of that last one?
Yeah, plus Dober was a southpaw, so even better. Right. You know what I mean? So you get, the aggression, and you get the aggression coming from the southpaw side, which, Frivola, I think he's fought a bunch of southpaws now, starting to really, get the hang of, some of the angles and creating openings that he has to do. But I don't even see that. I think one guy's coming forward and the other guy's coming forward, and firstest with the mostest is the bestest. Let's see
there
who
you
gets
go.
there first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of mixed
Exciting.
martial arts items to discuss with you today, because seemingly you don't want to give our audience much on your hip, which is fine, right? And I'm really not trying.
No. What do you want?
Well, no. So you and I spoke on Thursday, and you offered up, they want me to use the cane, but I'm fine without it, right? Like, our listenership cares about you, and hopefully I'm not pissing off the Minutemen. And by the way, shout out to the guy who reached into my DMs and told me he's a former Minuteman. We fucking love it. But I'm not like trying to press you on your hip, right? I just want you to let people know, like, just give them an update and like, yeah, like you might be in pain November 11th, but you're going to be there come hell or high water November 11th at Madison Square Garden, or maybe you're not going to be there. Like, but
no, I'm going to be there come hell or high water. I mean, that's basically I'm training for a fight too. I'm training to make it to the fight. But what
are you doing?
It was. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to PT twice a week, and I do the PT at my house every day. There's nothing really much I could do every day. I mean, I could go to the gym. I've been going to the gym now, but I got to sit down and, it's more, verbal, talking and just watching people spar. Like right after this, I'm jumping in the car and going to, Frivola sparring Nas at 12:30. So I'm going to head out of here right after this. So again, if you were an office worker, I'd be back to work already. It's just for what I do. It's a slower process. That was the only thing. Like, there's no pain right now while I'm talking. Obviously I could get around with the cane better than I ever could. There's no pain that way. I can get around without the cane. But after I realized that I wasn't going to be back in the gym holding mitts in 3 weeks, I just acquiesced to whatever the doctors, I was under the wrong impression. I thought I'd be back quick. Yeah, you feel great, and it's a different feeling. You kind of exchange one pain for the other. But all in all, they have the operation down to a science, and everything feels good. It's just, can I go on the mat and hold mitts and start running around? No, I still got to wait a couple of weeks. And that's, for me, it's frustrating. This is an isolated case. That's why I say I don't want to, screw anybody up. But I mean, the first 2 weeks, you're not doing shit with this thing. Right. 2 or 3 weeks, So it was all the stories. I'll give you an example. Kenny, see if this makes sense. So my wife's at the gym yesterday, and she's talking to Dylan Montello, and she's like, "Oh, Dylan's father had the other hip done 3 months after the first one." So I'm watching somebody turn around. I go, "Dylan, 3 months?" He goes, "Oh, no, it was more like a year." So it didn't even go from like 3 months to 4 months or 5 months. It went from 3 months to a year. This is what I'm dealing with, though. Right. So the information I got from everybody going into this thing would be like, 3 weeks from the operation. You're like, you're playing basketball. You're running around. That definitely didn't happen. Yeah, so I had kind of like a breakdown, but now I'm in tune with everything, and I'm accepting it for what it is, and I'm sure at the end of the day, it's going to be great.
I can't wait.
I don't know if that's a lot.
No, I can't wait. Whether it's 6 months from now and you say you're 100%, and whether it's a limp or a pimp game, whatever it is, Longo's going to be there for UFC 295.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there with the cane or without the cane. Now everybody wants me to get a good cane. They like the cane. I don't know. I don't know what I'm Kenny, I don't know what I'm dealing with anymore.
You got to get one of those sword canes, or one that like breaks in a nunchuck, so you could just
I love it. No, I'm sorry. I actually have the cane that I think becomes a sword, so we could use that one. But I'm going to end up like, who was the guy in the WWE back in the day? The Grand Wizard. Didn't he have a cane? Aren't you guys wrestling fans?
Yeah.
No.
Holy crow. Lords of Flatbush, anything in there. The Grand Wizard. Holy crow. Cody, help me out. Throw me a lifeline. Oh,
I watch the NFL. I can't help you with the WWE. Sorry. All right, let me get to some of these mixed martial arts items, if I could. Yes. I think Ken Flo's maybe trying to Google something.
Ernie Roth.
There you go. Great.
Yeah.
So a few other things I have for you today. So John Jones will be the headlining act at this UFC 295 event. This has got to be the hottest ticket in UFC history, right? Like, it just is turning the calendar to October. We are 6 weeks out. And I have been inundated with requests for tickets to Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
There are seats on the floor reportedly that are like six figures, right? Like, Madison Square Garden has always been a tough ticket, but the UFC live event has never been a hotter commodity than it is right now in 2023. It is comedy, right? Like our guy, Ronnie Pellegrino, who's going to put us all up for the World MMA Awards in December. Like this dude can't get in the building. He's pretty fucking connected. Just kidding, Ron. Yeah. We know Big Ron will be in the building, but. So John Jones, Ray, is prohibitively favored, I would say, to beat Stipe Miocic. He's minus 380. Stipe is plus 310. Does that widespread surprise you at all?
It surprises me a little bit. I think it's worth putting money on Stipe for that price.
Well, what are your expectations for Stipe against John?
I mean, the biggest expectation would be that he defends, the takedowns, which I think he'll be able to do, and he'll be able to, outbox him on his feet. I mean, that's, I don't know, John Jones, the last fight, as great as it was and as easy as it was, didn't give him any ring time in there. So he's still dealing with, having to get into a war at this stage of the game, which I think, the problem is Stipe's getting old too. So I haven't seen Stipe. I don't know, but that would be the problem to me, is that where it becomes a stand-up fight. Stipe's got the height that always gave John Jones problems, like with the Gustafson's fight. And I think Stipe's better than Gustafson in that respect. I just, again, I don't know what the age has taken its toll on him. He looks like he's in great shape. Definitely a big dude. And I think those are the guys that give John problems.
We had Brendan Schaub on our NFL Anik Squared podcast last week, and he ran into John Jones recently, and he said he is in supremely good shape, and he maybe has never seen him in that type of shape. So that bodes well for John, but I do think there's always more variables leading up to a John Jones fight on the John side than there are going to be on the opponent's side, and that, again, is the case here. So I expect Stipe to be motivated. I mean, he can't turn back the clock. He's not fucking Benjamin Button, but plus 310 I saw this morning. I felt like we needed to talk about that. All right. Mike Valley, outstanding striking coach, VFS Academy, outstanding human being, outstanding overall MMA coach, head coach of Bilal Muhammad. He was on the UFC Unfiltered podcast, I believe, with your friend Matt Serra, and he talked about coaching guys in terms of when they get hit hard, sort of the whole poker face mentality and how to sort of not reflect to the judges that you are compromised. I wanted to ask both of you guys this, but I want to start with you, Ray. How much time have you talked to your athletes over the years about this very situation? And if you do get cracked, trying to stay composed, not just physically and mentally, but aesthetically as well in that moment?
I mean, we talk about it and we train for it. I mean, I do one of the drills I love for these guys, and I do it during the boxing class a lot. I'll have one guy spin the other guy around like 10 or 15 times to where he's dizzy and he can barely get and then he's got to defend himself. He's got to get to the clinch and he's got to survive an attack while he's kind of rocked. It gives you a similar feeling to when you get punched and your equilibrium goes. So we definitely address it. And, some guys are going to be better at it than others, but we 100% address it. That's a big part of the fight if it happens.
Ken Flo, I know your dad's a thoracic surgeon. You ever do that fucking dizzy drill or what?
I actually did. I actually used to do that same thing, whether it was like a grappling round or where you had to kind of get away to get to the clinch or if you got hit. So, it's a big deal, man. It's a big deal because judges are going to go a lot on how you react to those shots, not only like how stoic you are or how not stoic you are by making a wincing face or turning around or flipping your face back. The other thing is, like, I remember when I was working on this, like against Jose Aldo, was if he kicked me in the leg, I'd walk forward. The best I could. The worst thing you could do is kind of get hit in the leg and then kind of like take steps back, because now you're like, okay, well, that was clearly an effective strike, whether it was or not. But if you give that kind of body language, or if you take a step back, then it's going to look worse than if you just kind of continue to kind of press forward. It's little things like that could be the difference between winning and losing. A lot of these fights that we're seeing are super close. So what are the judges going by? They're going off of your reaction to it, your body language. That literally could be the difference between you winning and losing. So why not work on that, right?
Yeah, I think he's 100% right with that. with everything, even with the leg kick, with everything. It's how you look. Even in the Valentina fight, when she got jabbed, you could see her head snapping back. That never looks good. And, Kenny's right. It's body language, right? Today we have, old new words. It's optics, right. But optics is body language. You know what I mean? It's like, he controls the range of the fight, controls the fight. Now it's distance management. Yeah, you got to have your distance management going. You know what I mean? Like, forget about range. That's like, what are you, born in the 50s? Body language? Optics. It's optics, I tell you. Fucking I can't. I swear to God, I'm not long for John. I can't take.
Well, no, and I hear all these sports commentators use the word impactful, and it's a made-up word, and now it has become the single most used word in sports broadcast journalism. Something either has impact or it doesn't. Full of impact. It really doesn't even make sense. I've only seen one fighting weakness, actually, from Alexander Volkanovski. It dovetails with this conversation about the poker face, right? Is that when he gets hit, however infrequently, he gets hit cleanly so infrequently that he acknowledges it. And, this is sort of a conversation about the other side of that, is teaching athletes to not at all acknowledge that. All right, a few more minutes here with Ray Longo as part of the award-winning, or should I say award-nominated Ray Longo Minute. So you were nominated for Coach of the Year at the World MMA Awards. I think there's like 24 hours left to vote. Kenny was nominated for Analyst of the Year. Our show was nominated for MMA Program of the Year, which is just super exciting. But we all were nominated individually, and the show was nominated. So as such, a lot of us are going to make our way to this award show. I don't know if it's going to be in December or not. Now, Ray, I don't usually win these awards, so I don't get like the call in advance that says, hey, you might win it. You may want to show up. But are you going to show up in Las Vegas, or do you need that phone call that says, hey, Ray, you won. Do you mind showing up?
Oh, I'm sure. I've been in the house so long, I'm showing up for anything. If they have turtle racing at the Cosmopolitan, I'll be there. I'm starving right now for something. But when is that? In December?
I think it is. I mean, Kenny, do you have visions of being in Vegas with us in December for UFC 296 or what?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I don't have any other commitments for work, I'm there. I'm there with you guys. As long as you're going to be there,
I'm going just to hear the nominees for Best MMA Programming are, and the voice of God is going to say the Anik and Florian Podcast, and I'm going to get full body chills because honestly, that nomination for this show means more to me than probably anything that has happened in my broadcasting.
Well, so then we got to be there. And as soon as they say the name, we just stand up and go, "We won it!" We just go crazy. Just throw everybody. We don't care if we won.
Yeah, we're just gonna walk up and take the trophy.
Yeah, that's it. Whoever. I'm with Kenny. I say it's a hostile takeover, no matter who wins.
That is brilliant. All right,
who's gonna stop us? Helwani? Exactly. Not happening.
So Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, Morning Combat, I think, are the reigning champs in this category.
Oh,
so if they're announced as the winner again, we'll just take our 5-pack and we'll all walk up there.
Oh, shit, man.
Did those say, sorry.
They won it last year?
And we'll just say, I think they did. We'll just say, oh, sorry. We thought we were just so excited. We thought that when you announced us as a nominee that we actually had won the hardware. So we'll go sit back down in our seat. And sorry about Longo's attire, by the way. He didn't know it was black tie. All right, a couple other things. Canelo Alvarez, did you see any of that? Watch any highlights? That was last night, Ray. Did you watch any of that?
No, that I missed.
Okay.
I missed that. I meant to watch it too, but I missed it.
All right, and then the last thing I had for you fellas today, before we get to our predictions for UFC Fight Night, Dawson versus Green. So Chris Lieben a couple weeks ago was a judge for a UFC live event, and I don't know how much Chris Lieben has to do with this conversation, but I want to start with Ken Flo. And it's almost rhetorical. Is judging not the most thankless profession other than maybe coaching in MMA? Certainly in coaching, a guy like Longo, right, can realize success and then get credit for it. Oh, multiple champions, whatever. A referee, right, if he stops a fight too early can be roundly criticized, but certainly if a fight is allowed to breathe and then it ends up being a classic, referees get praised a lot. Jason Herzog gets praised a lot on these airwaves, and rightfully so. Judges don't get a lot of praise. So I commend Chris Lieben for getting in the space. And while it opens up a thought process of me maybe wanting to judge or Ken Flo wanting to judge, it feels like it's the most thankless job at MMA and that there's only criticism really to be gained if you get into the space.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. It is not an easy job at all. I think that what you probably need to have is some amount of passion for the sport, right? That probably is there. And for Chris Lieben, I think it's a way of him probably giving back and trying to keep the standards as high as possible, right? As a former fighter, ensuring that he's doing his best as a judge to keep the sport as fair as possible. Not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do at all. I think that also as a fighter, it's really important that you go out there and you educate yourself and you do all those courses. There's a lot involved in doing that. There's a lot of pressure on you as well, just because you may have some existing relationships and things like that. So it gets even more complicated, I think, in a lot of ways for a former fighter like Chris Lieben. But the fact that he is doing that, I think, is awesome. I think it's also much needed, right?
Yeah, I think he had a rough start too, right? Wasn't he the only guy that called? I think it was a split decision, and he was the sole vote on the other one. But
see what I mean? No, you're already fucking banging on the guy.
No, I'm saying, listen, no, Chris Lieben's he's a good dude, but I think you got to get the guys that weren't hit. Well, imagine that we have 3 judges. It's Liddell, Chris Lieben. Let's throw Tito Ortiz in there. I mean, I think you got to get the guys that weren't hitting the head a lot of times towards the end of their career. No?
Well,
is it just me? Is this thing on? Is it just me, Ken Flo?
Well,
I mean, I don't know, man.
Let's take Kenny. Let's take Kenny. I know I'm not as somebody who fought for
Kenny.
The UFC.
I'd love to see as a judge. Love to see it.
Right. See, Kenny. Right. No, I know you would. Yeah. Now, I would love to be able to give back to a sport that has given so much to my life, right? So I would be lying if I said to you guys and everybody else that I didn't have some interest in doing this. And part of my interest is because I've spent so much time watching MMA, analyzing rounds, analyzing the criteria, trying to get myself to a higher intellectual level when it comes to my interpretation of the criteria. So yeah, to give back and try to do right by the fighters. But I feel like my first show would be like, dude, Anik fucking called fights for 20 years. That's one of the worst scorecards I've ever seen. So is my skin thick enough?
Right.
I don't know.
It's tough, dude.
I think really you'd be perfect too, John. I think you're like you say, you're already trying to understand it. You're probably better than 90% of the people out there already. But you know what? Look, it's definitely a thankless job. But, like I always say, I think 95% of the fights judge themselves. They're easy. It's that 5% that where you got to get good guys in there that are really looking at everything. And I don't know. Some fights are really, really close, man. They just are. So,
right.
What are you going to do? But I think it's like my thing always was, as long as we could hear from the judges and see what they have to say, maybe they swing us over to their side and you go, you know what? The guy's got a point on something, but we just never have that feedback. So I think it just muddies the waters that much more that we can't talk to anybody and find out what they're thinking. I mean, that would be a big help. You might talk to a guy and after 2 minutes go, oh, you get him the fuck out of here. This guy's got it. You know what I mean? That's the thing. So I think they know that and they keep these people, segregated from the rest of us. And then I think that's where the biggest problem comes. I think we need transparency. We have to know what these guys are thinking. And, look, back in the day, Kenny, you would pick a referee on, all right, this guy lets you hold more. Oh, this guy's going to break you quicker. So I'm not saying that's with the rules. The rules are the rules, but at least you knew what you were getting, you know what I mean? And you could do the same thing, with judges. This guy likes more wrestling. That's the way he's been scoring fights if they're really in tune with what's going on. This guy's more for the striking, even though that's wrong. But, you probably you could maneuver your way around a little bit like that, I think.
I just bring it up largely to acknowledge and appreciate Chris Lieben, right? Because I just feel like I can't think of that many more professions out there that are so thankless. And I keep trotting out this line that the most basic human need is to feel appreciated. And I do think for all of us in our walks of life and whatever is your occupation out there, most of us feel some modicum of appreciation. I don't get a lot of internal acknowledgement from the UFC and my bosses. I get it from the fan base, though, I just feel like for a judge, like if you're going back to your hotel room and trying to enjoy a cheeseburger after a show, maybe you're enjoying it more because they're not talking about a single scorecard of yours that maybe has gone awry. But I do feel badly for Mike Bell and trying to distance himself from that Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso scorecard. I don't know. Credit to Chris Lieben, but I'm not sure that I have the stones when I retire as a broadcaster to actually go judge MMA.
Yeah, I think I agree with. I think it's tough. I mean, we also have in Jersey Ricardo Almeida, who I think makes a great judge, but we haven't seen him around because I haven't talked to Ricardo in years, but I'm sure he's enjoying his family and he's
moving to Florida.
Is he moving to Florida?
Just opened a jiu-jitsu school, I think, in the Sarasota area, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow,
Ricardo's an awesome guy, man.
He's at a great guy.
I don't know if he's out completely, but if memory serves.
Wow, see, that's big. I haven't even seen him. I'm surprised Matt hasn't said anything, but he's a guy that I would consider would be a great judge, and he's already judged and done great. I'd like to see more of him, but I have no idea what he's doing.
All right, well, we'd like to see more of you, and we'll see you next Monday. And, of course, we can't wait to see your shining face at Madison Square Garden. If you want more from Longo, check him out on X at Ray Longo MMA. And if you want to find him on Instagram, it's at Ray Longo MMA, like 9358 or some shit like that.
9358. We all know what that means.
Of course.
No idea. That guy was tweaking when he made that up for me. Hey, I'm not even joking.
Yeah. Hey, enjoy your Sunday. And don't forget, National Football League comes on in about 60 minutes if you're so inclined.
Oh, yeah, I'll be watching. I'll see you guys. Take it easy.
There he is. Ray Longo. And the Ray Longo Minute every week here on the Anik Florian podcast. And we do promise you won't have to wait too long for these unbelievable shirts. But we've been trying to get the style right. The logo's really locked in. And just very excited for the Anik Florian podcast merchandise relaunch. All right, no pronunciation of the week here in advance of Dawson v. Green, as there was not a name challenging enough to warrant the exercise. So we will get straight to the predictions and the main event challenge.
It's the main event challenge. Anik.
The time is most definitely now.
Florian.
I finish fights. I'm going to do everything possible to win.
The main event challenge. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
And joining us every week for the main event challenge, you know what it is from the MMA Takes podcast, Brian Petrie on social media at Brian Petrie MMA. What's up, good looking?
What's going on, boys? I had to wear a hat. My hair's getting a little shaggy. Didn't want to get ragged on by John. Need a haircut, threw the hat on. Let's go.
Canelo Alvarez competed last night. I don't know if that got your pay-per-view dollars, but any thoughts on the highlights and how seemingly easy that exercise appeared to be for him on Saturday night?
Yeah, so it didn't get my pay-per-view dollars, but I did watch it. And I'm not going to. But listen, Canelo's a different beast. He was walking forward. He was determined. The guy's, the one thing that it felt like he was born, he felt like he was just going through the motions last few fights. This fight, for whatever reason, he got up, cardio on point, chin on point, stalking Charlo. Dropped him with a clean right hand that that was great because Charlo had a high guard the whole time. But yeah, Canelo's one of my favorites. I'm always going to tune in Canelo.
All right, so there's one John Jones Stipe Miocic thing that I need to ask of you because I asked it of Ken Flo and Ray Longo, and then I'll get to the standings and ultimately the 6 selections that you have for us today.
Okay.
We've also had a lot of conversations about reworking the main event challenge for next year. We appreciate the listeners who have chimed in.
Yes.
Looks like maybe you guys are only going to be required to make like 3 selections per card next year, despite breaking every card down in totality. But answer me this, man.
Yeah.
Why is there a number north of plus 300 next to Stipe Miocic's name at UFC 295? I understand John Jones is the consensus greatest mixed martial arts athlete of all time, but he's minus 380 against Stipe, who is maybe the best heavyweight the UFC has ever seen. Someone needs to explain to me why that number keeps going up and Stipe can be had right now at plus 310.
Well, I think you said it. I mean, John's the GOAT, so everyone's going to load up on John no matter what. I mean, I would love to look at if he ever closes an underdog or what his lowest closing price was, because there's probably not many out there. I mean, everyone loads up on John. Literally, I think to me, my biggest without loading up on Stipe would be the fact that he's been gone for so long. And the last time we saw him, he got knocked out. And then, age isn't, he's getting older. He's a heavyweight. I know heavyweights can fight till like 50 something, but you're just a little concerned about that. But it looks like he's in great shape. Looks like he's training. I follow him on socials. I'm sure he's always in the gym and stuff. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, that fight will be closer, in my opinion, than the numbers suggest. But I think it's the two factors. Last time we saw Stipe got knocked out, and then John Jones being fucking John Jones, So name carries.
All I've wanted to hear all day is what our producer just typed into the chat room. It's just the other side. And he thinks minus 380 is honestly a steal price next to John Jones. So, all right. I just felt like I needed to hear somebody. I just don't understand. I saw Stipe at plus 260 a few weeks ago. Went on there today just to get the lines for Prochazka and Pereira and saw plus 310 and felt like it was a talking point. We'll see where it closes in about 6 weeks. All right. Quick update on the standings. Petrie led it going into the Fiziev Gamrot show. 3-2 on the week. You dropped a couple units on Rafael Fiziev and then 3 units on Dan Ige. So 3-2 for the week, but minus $324 for the week. And then Team Florian 2-3. That included a 5-unit loss that we mentioned on Rafael Fiziev. So unlucky there, and just sort of a microcosm for the way it has gone for you at times this year. So minus 810 for the week for Ken Flo. And that brings us to UFC Fight Night. Dawson versus Green. First up for us is a bantamweight prelim. I felt like this fight was big enough to warrant a prediction here today. Montel Jackson outside the top 15 guys, but he is the minus 198 betting favorite here against number 15, Chris Gutierrez, who is plus 164. So Montel Jackson, don't look now, guys. He's won 4 in a row. Now to get to the cusp of the rankings, Gutierrez had that big win over Frankie Edgar late 2022. That punctuated an 8-fight unbeaten streak, but then he bowed to Pedro Munoz earlier this year. As such, finds himself back on the prelims. Pivotal one at that BP. Which way you going? Montel Jackson or Chris Gutierrez?
This is how we do it. How does Montel Jackson not come out to Montel Jordan? I'll never know. I love this fight. Both these guys are kind of built, their careers are kind of built the same. They both got thrown to the wolves right in their UFC debut. You got Gutierrez dropping to Hannibal Celos, and you got Montel Jackson against Ricky Simone. And then they've been a little inconsistent. They haven't fought a lot. Gutierrez a little more than Montel. Montel has said, I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get my skills. You're 30, 31 now. Time to ramp it up. I love this guy. I love Montel Jackson. He's got banana hands. His hands are huge, and he proved it last time coming out, finally getting a finish. There's been times where he's rocked people, and he's had the finish there, and he's let him off the hook. Last time out, didn't let him off the hook. I love that. His grappling's elite. Chris Gutierrez, though, another really sneaky, hard guy to predict here. Great leg kicks, great striking. On paper, good takedown defense. Hasn't fought a ton of grapplers to the level of Montel Jackson. He's also a big 35er as well. I like Montel here. I thought I was going to get him at a cheaper price because Gutierrez is a flashy guy with some really great knockouts. Almost 2-1 here on Montel is not a price I love, but I'm still going to take Montel Jackson here. I think he gets done maybe late sub, but I love this fight.
It is crazy, and perhaps some of our listeners don't like when we continue to bring it up, but yeah, Montel Jackson's hands, Kenny, measured bigger than Francis Ngannou's when the UFC measured them. It's absolutely insane for a 135-pound fighter. Getting the respect here as the betting favorite against the credentialed Chris Gutierrez. Ken Flo, we need a pick. Who do you like?
Yeah, man, listen, I think with Chris Gutierrez, there's times where I see him and he looks phenomenal. There's other times where he looks like he's not into it. Like the volume starts to shut down. It almost seems like he's checking out a little bit. But Chris Gutierrez at his best is, I think, can win this fight, but I got to go with consistency here. And with Montel Jackson, I think he has more of that. I think kind of the time is now. You got to beat someone like a Chris Gutierrez, who I think is a very good fighter, to prove that, you can get on bigger fights, main events, main cards, pay-per-views, things like that. So he's working his way up to that. I don't think it's an easy fight, but I do think it's, the value is there for Montel Jackson enough that I think he pulls this off and gets the win here.
All right, both guys like Montel Jackson. That brings us to our next fight at lightweight. Bill Algeo, minus 135. Taking on Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez, plus 114. Algeo reps King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Has won 3 of 4 and 34 years old now, Bri. I didn't realize he was that old, so the time has kind of got to be soon for a run. He's on one right now. Hopes it continues against Alexander Hernandez. Who do you have, BP?
Yeah, Bill Algeo, Philly tough, comes from that. Just, he's hard to put away. Doesn't have the biggest power in the world, but he breaks you down with cardio, breaks you down to enough where he can get you to the ground, maybe submit you. Excuse me, maybe the TKO you. And then Alex Hernandez, this guy's career is crazy, right? Debuts and knocks out Beneil Dariush. Okay, great. That guy should have fought, could have fought for a title. Then you go on this weird run where you're dropping these ugly losses. You're leaving Texas. You're going to all these different camps. You can't really find yourself. And I feel like his last time out against Jim Miller, a fight that on paper he was a favorite to win, but I felt like those are the fights he would lose in the past, whether it be a mental lapse or a cardio lapse. And he took some shots from Jim Miller, who's a dog. We all know Jim Miller's a dog in there. And Hernandez really put together a complete performance. I thought that turned the corner for him. So as long as he gets out of his own way, I think he's good here. He's got a plus number next to his name. I think he has big power. I think if his cardio shows up, he's not going to worry about Bill Algeo's pressure. So give me Hernandez here, man. Give me Hernandez. I like that. I like that number. I like the play. That might be a couple unis for your boy here to try to get back on track. But I'm not going to add him here. I'm just saying in my own life.
Right.
Real money.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I thought you did a nice job with the handicap, and I thought you hit on a lot of truths when it comes to Hernandez, some of them inconvenient. But Kenny, he did need a big win to start his 2023. Got it against Jim Miller, high-profile opponent. What are your thoughts on him here in the role of underdog against Bill Algeo?
Yeah, that was a good sign for Hernandez. And I think Brian Petrie kind of did a great job of breaking down this fight and why this was kind of a difficult one for me to pick. I think that Algeo kind of always comes in shape. Brian talked about the conditioning of Hernandez, which sometimes can fail him. And I think that I'm willing to put enough on Algeo to see him go out there and maybe try to tire out Hernandez. Hernandez, I think, is probably going to hit harder, but he tends to be kind of scatterbrained out there when he competes. Sometimes he gets off of what he's supposed to be doing for his game plan, and he will go in and start trading. Sometimes he'll get emotional. Sometimes he'll go into these transitions that he just shouldn't be involved with. And I think that some of those mental lapses is what's keeping me hesitant on going with the underdog here. So I'll go with the slight favorite here in Algeo. I think he gets it done. I think his game is going to be too well-rounded. I think he tends to be more disciplined during his fight. So give me Bill.
All right, next main card matchup also in the lightweight division. Drew Dober, minus 470, taking on Rick Glenn, who is plus 360. So Dober trying to rally back from what was really a huge loss to Matt Frivola at UFC 288 in Newark back in May. Huge favorite here. Some might say prohibitive fave. Rick the Gladiator Glenn fought the headliner Grant Dawson to that draw back in 2021, but he's only fought once since, and that was a knockout loss to Christos Giagos back in April. Brian Petrie. Any action for you here, Dober and Glenn? What do you think?
Lines are wide. Ricky Glenn, please say the Ricky Glenn, add that wide old Ricky Glenn's name there. I loved him when he came from World Series of Fighting. I thought this guy was interesting. Long rangey weapons, didn't have the biggest power, but he can pop a little bit. He's got some knockouts. Decent on the ground. Obviously, takedown defense could be a little bit of an issue, but in the UFC, he's been inconsistent, hasn't fought a lot. He's been in the UFC since 2016. That's only 8 fights. I mean, that's not a great record. That's not the being very active. While Dober debuted in the UFC in 2013. This will be his 21st fight. Dober's a dog, but Dober coming off the fight over Frivola where he got stiff for the first time. The fight before that, Bobby Green was piecing him up. Fight before that, Terrence McKinney had him. Fight before that, Rafael Alves had him. So this is a guy that needs to work on his defense. You can't rely on that chin your whole career. I know it's great. I know it's chiseled from granite. You look like a Greek god out there, but you got to protect yourself a little bit here, and Ricky Glenn can put some punches together. You go all the way back to Ricky Glenn versus Gavin Tucker. Man, that was a 10-7 fight. He beat the piss out of Gavin Tucker. He looked on fire, and Gavin Tucker, I think, is a good fighter.
Yeah.
So it pauses me. I'm not throwing any extra units over anything. I do think Dober has an X factor with the power. Ricky Glenn coming off a knockout, been around for a while. Maybe the reason the inconsistency in the fighting was because of injuries. Those pile up when you start getting into your 30s. Give me Dober, not confident, wide number. Wouldn't be surprised if people pick Glenn, but yeah, I'm going to go with Dober.
Kempfel, what do you think here? Drew Dober minus 470, Rick Glenn plus 360. I'd imagine if you were actually betting with dollars that could help your family, you're not laying 470 with Drew Dober, but any thoughts on this one at 155 pounds?
Yeah, that number's a little odd for me, especially coming off of that last fight. And the fact that, Rick Glenn, he has some good performances. He also has some bad performances. Certainly, if you go, I think Brian alluded to this, you go all the way back to 2016. There is a lot of different colors when you look at his win and losses. However, I do think he's a good enough fighter where he can steal this fight. He can certainly hurt Dober, who has relied on his chin and his toughness for a very long time. What do you do when that goes away? And Frevola did not help his cause at all, because once the chin goes, once you get knocked out, it's easier to get knocked out. That is, more of the case than not. It's rare that you see a guy kind of come back and, have a chin like granite, like a Nate Diaz who can kind of survive and come back. I don't know how he does it, but it's very rare. So I don't know. Drew Dober, great guy, but do I see himself just like changing from the last fight to this fight? I don't. And I think there's enough value on Rick Glenn to get it done. Again, not confident with this one, but I like Glenn here.
Love that pick, Ken Flo.
Thanks,
Ricky Glenn right now plus 360 on DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, at welterweight. Recent Anik and Florian podcast guest, new Mansa, Joaquin Buckley minus 192. Alex Morono plus 160. So Buckley, the former middleweight, stopped Andre Fialho back on May 20th. Now a near 2-1 favorite as he spins it forward against the Fortis MMA / Gracie Baja, the Woodlands product, Alex Morono. Ken Flo, how about this? Over under 17 and a half UFC fights for Alex Morono coming in. Over under 17 and a half UFC fights to this point in time for Alex Morono.
Man, did we call his fights back in the day? I would think over, dude.
It's a lot. Over hits 12-5 with a no contest, and he submitted Tim Means Business back in May on ABC in Charlotte. Kempfel, what do you think here? Buckley minus 192 or Morono plus 160 in a featured bout?
Oh man, here's another tough one for me. I think Morono could get things done if he can get to that clinch consistently. If he can hit those takedowns, get top position, I think he can give Buckley a tough time. I do know that Joaquin Buckley has been training with one of the best teams in the world as far as jiu-jitsu goes, and B Team in Austin, Texas. I've been seeing him train a lot more down there, probably in preparation for this fight here against Morono, who's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. I think that Buckley is going to be certainly the more powerful guy on the feet. He's a guy who can end the fight in an instant. And I think we saw that in his last fight at 170 pounds. Now, assuming he has another good weight cut, I think he should win this fight. Morono can cause problems for you, though. He's very good at forcing people to fight his fight. I think the odds are a little bit too high for Buckley here, but I'm willing to go with it. I think Buckley's power, his athleticism, kind of will get him by in this one. He's going to have to stop the takedowns. Going to have an answer to those clinches of Morono consistently. But yeah, I'll go with Buckley. I think his size is going to be a factor here in this one as well.
All right, Brian Petrie, we need a selection. Joaquin Buckley, minus 192. Alex Morono, plus 160. And by the way, if you see me looking off to the side, the Boston Celtics just made a big trade for Drew Holiday with Portland Trailblazers.
Okay.
Looks like the Time Lord Robert Williams might no longer be a Boston Celtic. So that was the reason why I was looking off to the side. But Holiday's a fucking stud. Bri, who do you have for us, though? I know our mixed martial arts audience cares not about what I just said.
I love this fight. This is a fight that puzzles me because I get these guys wrong all the time. You know what I mean? Morono, the last time out, I got to start putting on respect on Alex Morono's name. I don't think I'm going to do that this time because I think I'm going Joaquin Buckley. I love that he's down in the B team with Craig Jones and Nicky Ryan, those guys. That's one of the best gyms in the world. I was wondering, because I watched their vlogs on YouTube, I'm wondering, like, more guys need to go down here. Like, these guys are real deal studs. And Craig Jones works with Alex Volkanovski, who got him ready for Islam. And look what he did there. That's a guy who knows what the fuck he's doing. I love that move by Buckley. He's bounced all over the world. He's a character. He's funny online, but he's serious about this stuff. And I think people are maybe looking too much into his 170 debut in the UFC. I mean, Andre Fialho's coming off 4 straight knockout losses. Yes, he looked good. Yes, he looked great. Yes, he looked ripped up, everything, but let's not overreact. So I do agree the line's a little long because Alex Morono's just a guy who's just there. I mean, he had the Ponzinibbio fight, won, and then he got clipped, right? That's been his big thing in his career is his chin. He's got that awkward style, volume, fight IQ through the roof, has taken some good shots and can give shit, but over time, 3 rounds, I don't know if he can, and Buckley can fucking crack. I love this fight because it makes me uncomfortable, and I'm trying this new thing that, usually I would be like, oh, I'm scared. I'm not going to 3 units on Buckley because I think he's going to get it done. I'm not afraid. Let's go. I live in the uncomfortable, baby.
Absolutely chiseled black dude versus like doughy white dude. Yeah, right. And the doughy white dude always finds a way.
It's true.
We'll see how it goes. 2 really good eggs there. Joaquin Buckley and Alex Morono. May the better man win. All right, co-main event. Back to you, Petrie, on this. Joe Body Bags Pyfer -395. Abdul Razak Al Hassan is +310. Pyfer 11-2. He's 27 years of age out of Philadelphia, PA. And he's off to a resounding 2-0 start in the UFC. Here he draws the power-packing Abdul Razak Al Hassan, a 38-year-old veteran of 11 UFC fights. Another widespread here, BP.
Yeah.
Which way are you going?
So I love this fight. A little quick backstory. I hate Joe Pyfer's nickname, the Body Bag. The one time I was going to fight in amateur mixed martial arts, I drove to Indianapolis. I weighed in against a guy named Allen the Body Bag, forget his last name. And I'm like, God, you get that out of here. He ended up pulling out, fighting that never happened. Of
course he did.
I think he pissed his pants at the weigh-ins. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But Be Like Joe Pyfer needs to be his nickname. I mean, Dana White stamped you, bro. That's what you're going to known as. The next week, you're sitting ringside. You're saying you're homeless. You're ringside with some hot chick. Be Like Joe Pyfer's your nickname. I mean, am I wrong?
It's just B.
Yeah, right. Be Joe
so
Pyfer.
It's not Be Like, right? But it's yes. I mean, they've already printed the shirts, but yes, he would be announced by Buffer as, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Be Joe Pyfer. It's fucking perfect.
Perfect. And Dana, Dana gave you that, right? I like Joe Pyfer. He's a big, beefy kid. He's coming along good. I mean, the one time we saw him grapple against Stolfus back in the Contender Series, he broke his arm. I know that can happen. Stolfus was a pretty good grappler. Abdul Razak Al Hassan is going to come in and probably use some judo. I mean, this is a guy who's been chinned before. He's got big power. If he doesn't get you out of the first round, it's going to be a wrap for him, in my opinion. I think he's going to want to grapple a little bit. I love what Pyfer did. After the Jared Mirskat fight, he went and did a couple grapplings, right? He grappled Jared Mirskat and beat him, beat him by on points or decision or whatever. So I like that he's mixing it up and he's getting better. The number is huge, but be Joe Pyfer, baby. I think he wins this fight. I think it's going to be a 2nd or 3rd round knockout. I think he's going to continue to grow. Super athletic, super powerful. As long as he doesn't get clipped, I think, you can play a one round KO on a Hassan. I think that'd be a great, gorgeous number for you. But I like Joe Pyfer here.
Be Joe Pyfer, -395. Abdul Razak Al Hassan, +310. Those are the odds right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Ken Flo, what do you have for us here?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those fights I do not see going the distance. Both guys have big power. They both have a bunch of knockouts on their record. So it could be very chaotic in there. And it's not always clear as to who's going to get the knockout when you have 2 guys with that kind of speed, that kind of power, that kind of athleticism. But I think Pyfer is a little bit newer on the scene. I think his consistency you can rely on a bit more than Al Hassan's. So give me Pyfer here.
All right, finally, our main event, first UFC headlining spot for Grant Dawson, whom you will hear from shortly right here on the Anik Florian podcast in about 10 minutes. He is the whopping -425 favorite against Bobby King Green, who is +300. 23rd UFC appearance for King Green, coming in following a recent win over Tony Ferguson. That was at UFC 291 in late July in Salt Lake City. So Green still only 37, just turned, but speed's still there, at least to my eyes, but figures to get a good wrestling test from Dawson, who is 20-1 as an MMA pro and 8-0-1 in the UFC after a win over Damir Ismagulov back on July 1st. UFC Fight Night main event, Dawson Green. Brian Petrie, who do you have?
I should have been sold on Green a while ago, but it took the Damir fight for me to sell on him. This guy's grappling. Even, I guess, the Mark Madsen fight as well, Olympic silver, maybe gold medalist, what he did to him too. The guy's grappling's for real. His cardio's for real. The move from Krause's to American Top Team was a great move for him. He's made leaps and bounds improvements, right? I want to see a little more polish on the feet because I feel like once you start cracking these really top 10, top 5 guys, I don't know if that style is going to work. Bobby Green's an interesting guy. Good takedown defense. When he gets taken to the ground, he's got submissions, submitted Tony Ferguson, but now off his back is a little tricky for me. I think Grant Dawson's going to live there. I think this is a great fight for Grant Dawson. Bobby Green, he got paid taking that Islam fight on short notice. Every time I see him, he's got more jewelry, he's got more rings. This guy needs to train to be able to support all the jewelry he's got on. King Green, I love Bobby Green. Phenomenal performance over Tony Ferguson here. But this is a different guy. This is not a guy that's at the end of his career. This is the beginning of his career. And stylistically, it's a horrible matchup for him. I like Grant Dawson here. I'm going to go ahead and throw 2 extra units on Grant Dawson. Let's just use the 5 total. I wasn't going to. That was a spur of the moment thing, but let's just fucking do it. I think this is a slam dunk for him.
We like that spur of the moment stuff here on the Anik Florian podcast. Ken Flo, Grant Dawson, first main event for him taking on the credentialed Bobby King Green. Huge price on Grant Dawson. Petrie has no problem laying it. What do you think about the main event coming up this weekend?
Yes, sir. Very interesting fight. I think that Bobby Green, with his unorthodox style, can pose a lot of problems for people, particularly other strikers. Grant Dawson is not a striker. And I think he has a style which could kind of take away some of the advantages that Bobby Green can have against other guys. What does he do? Grant Dawson goes there and smothers you. He takes away space. He gets in your face, and he looks for a way to get to that clincher, get in on your legs, and he gets right to work, man. He goes right to work. He lets you carry his weight. He's very good at keeping top position. He's very good at transitioning to your back. And from what I've seen so far out of Bobby Green, on the ground, he just looks very lost. And again, someone like Grant Dawson, you can't be there on the ground and on your back for too long, because he will take advantage of it with his ground and pound or his submission game. So I like this fight for Grant Dawson as well. I do want to go big here as well, while I am a little bit gun shy after the shellacking that I've been experiencing over the last month and a half or so. Let's go 5 unis on Grant Dawson. Nice. He is a big favorite. But I do like this one and need some points.
Nice.
All right, both guys pretty convicted on Grant Dawson. Before we let you go, Brian Petrie, your Cincinnati Bengals, and I know by the time people watch this game will have expired, but the Bengals -2.5 at the Tennessee Titans today as they try to level their record at 2-2. What do you think about Cincinnati in this spot today?
I love him in this spot. I've been watching a lot of pick'em shows this week and a lot of people like the Bengals. That's like their locks, and that scares me a little bit. We all know when everyone's on the same side, they surprise. But defense of the Titans is not good. Derrick Henry isn't the runner he's 30 now that he used to be. Our defense played lights out Monday. As long as Joe's healthy and we can get him out there and throwing the ball a little more than 8 yards down the fucking field, we'll be all right. But Bengals all day, always, baby. 2-2. We should always start slow.
Right. That's true.
We need it.
All right. If you want more from Bri, you can follow him at Brian Petrie MMA. Appreciate your contributions as always, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
Boys, you're the best. I'll see you.
There he is, Brian Petrie, with us every week for the Main Event Challenge. And speaking of this weekend's UFC Main Event, back at that little UFC Apex in Las Vegas, let us get to KGD. All right, well, now joining us live on the Anik Florian podcast, one of the best lightweights in the world, set to take part in his first UFC main event 6 days from now, Grant Dawson, live from South Florida. Good morning, brother. We appreciate your time today. How are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. Like I said, this has just been one of the best experiences of my life, and I am just so excited to get this first main event, first of many, I might add, main event going in, what do we got, less than, 6 days? I can't wait.
So when are you leaving? Are you leaving Tuesday? Are you still in South Florida right now?
Yeah, so I'm in Florida right now. I like to stay in Florida for as long as possible. If they let me come out Wednesday night, I would come out Wednesday night, because I think that the time difference in Vegas isn't so much that you need to go get acclimated. Plus, when I'll be fighting will be around the same time here anyway. So I would rather be in Florida with my people for as long as possible. But we do fly out early Tuesday morning.
Got it. So Thursday, I had this thought that I would love to try to book Grant Dawson either before or after the fight. Now, I had no idea that around the time I was trying to book you on Thursday, you were about to do an appearance with Bilal Muhammad and my twin brother on Remember the Show. So I apologize if you thought the signals were getting crossed there. Perhaps it was just the monozygotic twin thing intervening there. But making the rounds, obviously, and doing a lot of media, what are your thoughts as to what's going to happen once you touch down in Vegas in terms of everybody wanting a piece of you, being a headliner for the first time?
Well, one of the blessings about being at American Top Team is that there's so many guys there with wealth of experience. And one of the first things I talked to the guys about was, hey, what's different about being the main event? Is there anything that I should know about? Is there anything that like I should be ready other than an extra 2 rounds? And they were like, man, other than fight week, you got way more media to do. It's really the same, and those 2 rounds don't feel that bad once you actually get in there and start doing them. So I'm expecting a little bit more media. I'm expecting to be on my feet a little bit more, but I kind of like that because it gets me to stop thinking about how hungry I am during fight week. So I'm hoping that the media goes well and everything goes smoothly this fight week.
So Grant Dawson has not lost in 9 UFC fights since earning his UFC contract on season 1 of Dana White's Contender Series all the way back in 2017. I was prepping for you this morning, and I was absolutely stunned to learn that you haven't fought on a numbered pay-per-view card yet. I know I've only called like 2 of your 9 UFC fights, but I think I speak for the MMA masses when I say we're excited you're getting this headlining opportunity because I think it speaks to just how elite you are, even though maybe you haven't been showcased on pay-per-view as yet.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that's kind of holding me back to the common fan is that I haven't fought on a pay-per-view. I haven't fought on like a Conor McGregor card. And it's almost kind of weird because I've been scheduled to fight on 2 pay-per-view cards. And both times they just fell through, once because of myself and the other time because of my opponent. So it's just one of those things where it hasn't quite lined up yet, but I do think that's next. I got my first big win in the co-main event in my last fight. Now I'm about to get my first big win in the main event in this fight. And I think what comes next is the main card of a pay-per-view.
Well, Grant, I can hear the energy in your voice, man. You seem very excited about this opportunity. What's different? What's different about your game, you think? I know you're always kind of making adjustments and changes. We've seen that over the course of your career. But what's different heading into this 5-rounder here against Green?
I don't think there's anything really different. The preparation kind of stayed the same other than we added 2 rounds. I'm a big believer in camp, you go the rounds that you have. So if I'm fighting 3 rounds, I'm sparring 3 rounds. If I'm fighting 5 rounds, I'm sparring 5 rounds. I don't like to spar 5 rounds if I'm fighting for 3 because you start to train yourself to save your energy for the later rounds. I don't like that. If I've got 5, I want to do 5. If I've got 3, I want to do 3 and then be done. So I don't think anything's really different about the game. I think we all know what I'm going to go in and try to do. And I think we all know what Bobby's going to go in and try to do. And it's just about who is better at their game.
And in regards to that, there's no surprise in what Bobby's going to do in his fights. He largely fights the same way, but he is an unorthodox striker. Did you have guys who could kind of mimic that style for you in training?
Yeah. So again, one of the nice things about American Top Team is there's so many guys there. We got guys that, you guys probably have never heard of just because they're on their way up and they kind of get lost in the big names of the team. But we were able to find 2 guys that mimicked Bobby very well, I believe. I don't think you're ever going to get it 100% on. But one of the other things that I really wanted to focus on was getting guys that were really good at scrambling on the ground, because on the feet, you're never going to be able to get it down 100%, right? But on the ground, if you get somebody that's real slippery, real athletic, and real scrambly, I think being ready for that is more important for me than being ready for example, he holds his hands down and he talks, I'm not worried about him talking in the cage. I'm not worried about his hands being down. I'm worried about actual physical techniques that I can prepare for.
And Grant, one last question. I know you've been at ATT for a little while now, one of the best teams in the world. How long did it take you to kind of acclimate to their style of coaching, to kind of being around and being comfortable with them and their team?
Well, it was one of those things where, so I had heard stories about American Top Team. I had heard people say like, oh, they don't care about you. They only care about their big guys. You're just going to be a training partner. And so going in to the team, that is what I was expecting. I was like, it's going to take me a couple of years to get the coaches to notice me. I might be a little bit ahead of the game because I'm in the UFC, but I wasn't ranked at the time and I was coming off of a draw. So it wasn't like I was this this big thing. Immediately when I walked through the doors, Mike Brown, Thiago Alves took me under their wing. And I'm talking like the same day that I walked through those doors, they grabbed me. They wanted to work with me. I told them I wanted to work with them. And it was a perfect fit. The biggest thing that I had to get used to was getting my ass kicked every single day, because I went from a gym where I got submitted one time in an entire calendar year to I stopped keeping track because I got submitted like 45 times in the first like 3 months. It was just a huge ego check. And it's definitely what I needed. And I definitely think that is what is making my game go to the next level. The last fight you saw against Demir was my best performance by far. And I'm not just saying this to sell the fight. I truly believe that I am a much better fighter now than I was in that fight.
Grant Dawson with us here on the Anik Florian podcast. It's interesting to hear you hearken back to walking into those doors in Coconut Creek, Florida at the famed American Top Team and suggest that maybe you're not the next big thing, because you kind of were that. I know you're sort of rooted in humility, but you were James Krause's star pupil. And it was big news when you went to American Top Team because, sure, you didn't have a number next to your name in what is ubiquitously regarded in my mind as the best UFC division, but a lot of people felt like the ceiling was world champion. And I'm not surprised that their highest profile coaching tandem, Mike Brown and Thiago Alves, sunk their teeth into you right away. So I do think you're being a little bit humble there, Grant, but it's really cool to hear you talk about the progression. And I'm curious, though, in terms of that decision, right? Like, who was the runner-up for Grant Dawson when American Top Team sort of won in terms of the sweepstakes, if I can call them that?
So I've actually got a story behind it, and it's not a crazy story, but it is a kind of a cool story. My wife and I were driving to Tim Elliott's birthday party, and we were driving there, and we were literally having a conversation about how much we had just bought a house, how long we were going to live in Missouri, about raising our kids in Missouri, and like, do we want to stay in this house and stuff like that, and how much we loved our gym at Glory MMA and Fitness. We get to the party, party's going on. Tim Elliott's wife at the time pulled us aside right as we were leaving, and she was like, "Hey, I have a favor to ask. Tim's got this really big fight coming up, and we kind of want, obviously James is still the head coach, but we kind of wanted you to take him under your wing and like really help him out with his jiu-jitsu and his wrestling and maybe coach him a couple of times a week." And I was like, yeah, like maybe, let me think about it. And we're driving home, and I talked to my wife, and I was like, I don't want to be a coach. Like I'm falling into this role where I'm the coach. I'm the guy that people are going to. I'm kind of the glue that's holding this team together outside of James, of course. I'm kind of the glue holding this team together. And I don't want that. I want to be Grant, the world champion, not Grant, the high level assistant coach. And so we got to talking. We went on a walk, and this was right after I came off of a draw to Ricky Glenn. And we were like, we have to move, don't we? Like, we have to go somewhere else. And she was like, yeah, I think we need to pack up everything and move. So we sat down that night, and, we prayed about it. We were like, look, God, universe, whatever you want to call it, like, just send us a sign on where we're supposed to go. Anything, literally anything. My eyes are open. The next day, I'm not making this up. The very next day, it was Monday morning. Johnny Eblin, who hadn't been at that gym in over a year, and I hadn't talked to him in about 9 months, walks into the gym. He was just there visiting family for some reason, walks into the gym and joins practice. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. I'm supposed to go to ATT. Like, this is a thing. So I sat down with Johnny Eblin. We talked at the gym for a little bit. My wife and I took him out to lunch, and we talked for like 4 or 5 hours. And he was like, yeah, come check out ATT. So I go to ATT, I check it out for a week. The first day, I loved it. I was like, this is it. We're moving. Me and Johnny are going for a walk. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get an Airbnb. I'm going to rent out I don't know what I'm going to do with my house. I'm going to get an Airbnb, and I'll be down here in a month. And he was like, bro, don't get an Airbnb. Just come live with me. And I was like, dude, I got my wife, my 2 dogs, and my friend at the time was moving with me too. Like, you don't want all of us in your house like that. He's like, no. Don't even worry about it. Come live with me until you get on your feet. So we moved in with him for like 3 months. Wow. Found our own place. Like, this would not have been as easy of a transition if it wasn't for Johnny Eblin. That was just one of the best blessings I think we had.
Such a fascinating story. And of course, the first part of it rooted in just all your own self-confidence and belief in yourself as a world champion. And I think that was, and I know Kenny agrees without even saying it, like tremendously smart pivot by you, because there will certainly come a time when you can offer up your services and be a great coach. But that time unequivocally is not now. A couple more minutes here with Grant Dawson. I know you got church here coming up in an hour, so we very much appreciate you on a Sunday morning. So do you claim Nebraska, Wisconsin? Like, what state do you claim?
I mean, right now I'm Florida through and through. I'm absolutely Florida. My family still lives in Nebraska. Yeah. So, you know, I'll always be rooted as that small town Nebraska kid. I grew up in a very, very small town. There was like 1,200 people in the town. There were 26 kids in my graduating class. So I'm always going to be the small town kid. But right now, I absolutely love Florida. I love the politics here. I love the weather here. I love the people here. I love everything about Florida right now. So I'm Florida man.
And I don't live far from you, so we got to get a cup of coffee at some point or break bread on the other side of this fight. Before we let you go, and by the way, I was doing a search this morning, Ken Flo, like the best fighter from each state, right? And for Wisconsin, this was actually a list from 2012. Jake Ellenberger was Nebraska. Anthony Showtime Pettis was Wisconsin. But I do believe that Grant Dawson will go down as the greatest fighter out of the state of Nebraska when all is said and done. I really do believe that. But before I let you go, if my research is accurate, it seems like maybe American football was the initial dream before you switched to wrestling and eventually MMA. Is that right?
Yeah. So it's hilarious that was even a thing. I was a young, stupid kid, and it was my dad, really. My dad loved the Green Bay Packers because we're originally from Wisconsin. Right. I grew up in Nebraska, but he's from Wisconsin. So he loved the Packers. So I absolutely loved watching the Packers play every Sunday with my dad. And I was like, I want to be an athlete. Like, school just kind of isn't working out for me because I was dyslexic and it was really, really difficult for me. And I was like, I want to be a pro football player. So in high school and middle school, I tried to play, and I got to play throughout my entire career. I got to play 2 plays in an actual game. And I was just like, dude, why am I working so hard at this to not play? And that's not on my coaches. I was terrible. I was an awful player. Like, I wouldn't have put me in either. You know, if I was the coach and my son was as bad as I was, I'd tell him to be a water boy. Like, no way. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to wrestle because at least in wrestling, I get to compete. I get to actually do it. I didn't even really enjoy wrestling as much as I do now, obviously. But I just like, you know what? I'm going to do wrestling because at least I get to compete in it. And then I found MMA and I was like, holy crap. This is what I was meant to do. I mean, I'm telling you, I saw one MMA fight and it was like a light bulb just went off in my head that I was put on earth to do this. And I wasn't just put on earth to do it. I was put on earth to do it to the best of my ability and to become a UFC world champion. That has been the goal since day one, and I have stood by it.
You look like one, you talk like one, and certainly when I was watching you against Amir Ismagulov back in July, you look like you were a man meant to do mixed martial arts at a high level. Hey, before I let you go, your wife, Elle Dawson, is also a mixed martial arts athlete as well. Is that right?
Yeah, so she just got signed to Invicta as well. So Congrats. We're looking to get her. Thank you. We're looking to get her lined up, hopefully at the end of December. So I'm fighting in a week, and then we're just going to turn right around and get her in camp and just do everything we can to prepare her for her first big Invicta fight.
Amazing. Well, first things first, Grant KGD Dawson fights Bobby Green in the UFC Fight Night main event. It is this Saturday. You can see it live on ESPN Plus. If you want to follow this man on Instagram, it is at Grant Dawson KGD. My man, very much appreciate you squeezing us in. Have a great fight week. We will certainly be watching here at home. And dude, got to get you on a numbered card here. Got to get Joe Rogan's pipes on one of the Grant Dawson fights at some point. What are we doing?
Right. It's going to happen, man. First things first, I got to take out the king. And then after that, we'll talk about what's next.
All right, buddy. We appreciate you. Enjoy church, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, guys.
See you, Grant.
There he is, Grant Dawson, with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. Gosh, man, looks the part, talks the part. Really good dude. And some interesting stories, too, especially when it comes to that Tim Elliott coaching opportunity and having the understanding and the recognition of what he needed to do at that point, critical point of his professional life.
Yeah, seems like a good kid, man. And I agree. I think that, there is certainly, or it was for me, to have a spiritual component to what you do. And I think that is very important. Those are the things that are kind of going to drive you a little bit more and also help you during the tough times, which you will inevitably experience. And, they call the stomach the second brain. For me, it really is the first brain. You got to follow that gut. It's what he did when he said he saw that light bulb go on when he saw his first MMA fight. And, he's been trusting that gut all along, and it's served him very well so far.
There are a handful of other elite lightweights at American top teams. Certainly Dustin Poirier, chief among them. Perhaps his next fight will be at welterweight. Mateusz Gamrot, obviously, after the win over Rafael Fiziev. He's not going to fight. Grant Dawson's not going to fight those guys unless it's for a world title, presumably. But I do think that Grant Dawson could make a run here. He's obviously a big favorite this weekend against Bobby Green, but he certainly has gone about everything the right way up to this point, and we're very excited to see his progression. All right, we got to go watch some football. Thank you to our guests, Grant Dawson, Raymond Peter Longo, Brian Petrie. If you do like this Ray Longo Meta t-shirt, it is not available yet, but we can assure you all of the new designs are coming, new website, everything is popping off. But right now you can check out AnikFlorianPodcast.com for everything you need on the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the DraftKings YouTube channel. You can watch Remember the Show with Bilal Muhammad and Jason Anik every Thursday night on the old channel, the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel, where you can also access clips of this very program as well. And don't forget, one more sleep merchandise, millions.co. KennyFlorianMartialArts.com is live as well, as is Argus Integrated Defense on Instagram. Do yourself a favor when you're scrolling through pictures of like attractive women or men at Argus Integrated Defense. I'm telling you. All right. Have a great week, everybody. We are back next Monday as the UFC train keeps on rolling, and we'll see if Grant Dawson can get it done in a big spot against Bobby King Green. The executive producer of all of this, one of the hardest working men in show business, is Cody Merrill. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. We'll talk to you in less than a week. Until then, yo fucking later.
Are you sure we're not in the Boston Garden? Now every time I start a verse, I break at least 3 commandments. Kinda like Pluto, because I never planned it. I'm outlandish in a way that make Apaches look like they own ranches. It's the art of war. Your blood's the only color on the canvas. And I don't mean it like a thug sense of how you can get got. Fuck being gangsta, I'm hip-hop. You got it? Every time you walk on the label, the A&R's like nodded. Immune to your shit, cause I circle, dotted. Body heat is a toxic leak. Got a beat, I don't got it. Street cop and see, start to think psychic lick. Make the speakers speak and lead us sleep. Off their high horse, make an ass of their views. Your DJ must not know the alphabet, forgetting his cues. My favorite DJ got those and 6 extra L's to abuse. Esoteric John P. and I'm the new kid school. I'm Raider Ellis, nice to meet you. Short busting my styles. Egocentric, ego tripping with frequent fly smiles.
DJ wants to get at the bird. He gets at the bird. And bird takes the shot.
You wanna set it on us? We got Comedos.